Ethan pulled over, the tires hissing on the wet pavement. For a moment, he hesitated, not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. It had been another long shift at the warehouse, another night of pushing through fatigue. So his 6-year-old daughter, Ava, could sleep without hearing him cry quietly in the kitchen. But as he watched the old man fight the storm, he couldn't look away. He stepped out, instantly soaked. "Sir, you okay?" he called out, raising his voice above the wind. The old man looked up.
You have to listen.
His glasses were fogged.
They are coming.
His coat far too thin for the weather. I just need to get across,
now. It's not
he
safe
said,
here. Right.
pointing
I'm
shakily toward the other side of the road. "Bus stopped, but it's too slippery." "Come on," Ethan said, offering his arm. "Lean on me." The man clasped Ethan's arm with trembling fingers, as though afraid the storm might steal him away too. Together, step by slow step, they crossed a flooded street. Cars splashed water over their shoes. The wind cut at their faces, and the streetlights flickered like the city itself was unsure how bright it deserved to shine. The old man's breath shook as they reached the shelter of the bus stop. Ethan helped him sit, lowering him gently onto the bench.
"I can't."
"Thank you," the man whispered. His voice cracked on the word, as if gratitude weighed heavier than the storm. "No problem," Ethan said, offering a tired smile. "You headed home?" "Trying to," the man murmured. "But
You have to
buses
listen to me.
not
They are
running well
coming.
in storms
We
anymore."
need to leave now.
Ethan checked his watch. Ava would be
have
asleep
to
by
move now.
now.
It's not safe
The
here.
babysitter
Right.
stayed
I'm
late
coming.
when needed, bless her, but still, guilt tugged at him. Yet the thought of leaving the stranger
to move
alone in the
now.
cold felt wrong. "Tell you what," Ethan said, "I can drive you. It's not a problem." The old man studied him for a long moment, eyes softening. "Why, help me?" he asked quietly. Ethan shrugged, rain dripping from his hair. "Because someone should." They drove through half-flooded streets until the old man pointed to a small, aging apartment building with dim hallway lights. Ethan pulled up to the entrance.
Hand it over.
"You've already done more than anyone's done for me in a long time," the man said. "I hope life brings that kindness back to you." Ethan smiled, even though a part of him didn't believe life worked that way. "Take care, sir." When he returned home, Ava was still asleep,
You have to
but
listen.
Ethan stood for a long
They are
time
coming.
beside her bed,
We need to leave
watching
now.
her tiny chest rise and fall.
We have to
"I'm
move now.
trying,"
It's not safe
he
here.
whispered into the
Right.
dark.
I'm coming.
"I hope I'm doing enough." Morning came early. Ethan rushed to get Ava ready for school,
We
pack
need
her
to
lunch,
move now.
and drop her off before heading to his second job, a small security position at a downtown office building. He was often tired, often overwhelmed, but he never let Ava see it. Her smile was a kind of sunrise he carried everywhere. By the time he arrived at work, the storm had finally loosened its grip on the city. The lobby lights reflected off newly polished floors, the scent of coffee drifting from the reception desk. Grace, the building's manager,
over.
hurried past it with a stack of
can't.
folders and a worried expression. "Morning, Grace," Ethan said. She flinched slightly, startled. "Oh, Ethan, sorry, busy morning. Everything okay?" "Yeah," he said. "You," she sighed. "Honestly?
Listen to me.
No.
They are
There was a
coming.
system error last
need to
night.
leave now.
Half the documents for today's inspection
We have to move
vanished.
now. It's not
If I
safe
can't
here.
find
Right.
them,
I'm coming.
I could lose my job. Ethan frowned sympathetically. Grace was always professional, always calm.
move now.
Seeing her unsettled sparked something protective in him. "Anything I can do?" She gave a weak smile. "Just pray this day doesn't get worse." But the day did get worse. By noon, Grace was practically in tears, her hands shaking as she searched every folder, every email, every backup file. Ethan watched helplessly until the elevator doors opened and someone unexpected stepped into the lobby. The old man from last
Hand
night.
it over.
This time he wasn't
I
soaked
can't.
nor shivering. He wore a clean pressed shirt, a polished cane, and an expression of gentle authority. Grace's eyes widened the moment she saw him, and Ethan sensed a shift in the air before understanding why. "Mr. Rowan," Grace stammered.
You have to listen to me.
I thought
They
your
are
assistant
coming.
would be coming."
We need to leave.
"My assistant is sick," the old man replied,
to move now. It's
voice
not safe
warm but
here.
strong.
Right. I'm coming.
"So I came myself. Today's inspection is too important to postpone." Ethan blinked.
We need
He
to
was the
move
inspector? The man he helped in the storm? The old man turned, and when his eyes landed on Ethan, something brightened in them. "You," he murmured. I remember you. And in that single moment, everything in Ethan's life began to tilt toward a direction he never expected. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, unsure whether to step forward or hide behind the security desk. Mr. Rowan's gaze, however, was full of recognition.
Hand it over.
Not the kind that embarrasses, but the kind that softens a room. You helped me through the storm last night, the old man said, his voice echoing gently across the marble lobby. Grace turned quickly to Ethan, her eyes wide. Wait, you helped him? Ethan rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly self-conscious. Just did what anyone else should have done. Mr. Rowan shook his head with a delicate firmness many should have. Few did. He took a slow step closer, leaning lightly on his cane. Had you not stopped, I might have collapsed in that rain. My heart isn't what it used to be. Ethan felt heat rise in his chest, not pride, but something humbler. I'm just glad you made it home. Mr. Rowan turned then to Grace, who stood as stiff as a statue. Now, he said, I hear there's been some trouble with the documentation? Grace swallowed hard. Yes, sir. A system glitch wiped out half the files. I've been searching everywhere for backups, but I haven't found anything. And the inspection, her voice trembled. I know how important it is. The old man watched her with thoughtful eyes. Then quietly he asked, Do you like your job, Grace? She nodded quickly, tears already gathering. I do. More than that, I need it. Mr. Rowan sighed, a gentle sound full of understanding. Then let's not assume the worst before we see the day through. Grace blinked, confused. But the files. He lifted a hand, stopping her. Let me take a seat and review what you do have. Send everything to my email again. If something is missing, we'll find a way to address it together. Grace stared at him like she wasn't sure she'd heard correctly. Together? Inspectors were never this forgiving. But Mr. Rowan's expression left no room for doubt. Ethan stepped aside, watching the two of them move toward the conference room. Something inside him eased, a sense that maybe, just maybe, kindness could bend the course of a day. About an hour later, Grace emerged from the room holding a folder to her chest. Her face wasn't panic now. It was something closer to stunned disbelief. Ethan stood from his desk when he saw her. How'd it go? He asked. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she walked straight to him, placed a folder on the counter, and whispered, He saved me. Ethan frowned. Saved you? Grace nodded, eyes filling again, but this time with relief. He told me he remembers how I treated him kindly last year when his wife passed. I didn't know who he was then. He was just an elderly man grieving in the lobby. I sat with him until his driver came. And today, he said people who show compassion shouldn't lose their jobs over a computer glitch. Ethan's chest warmed. Mr. Rowan hadn't just been a stranger in a storm. He was someone whose life had been marked by small kindnesses long before Ethan ever offered his own. Grace wiped her cheeks, laughing shakily. He approved the inspection. He even thanked me. That's good, Ethan said softly. You deserved it. She looked at him then, really looked, her gaze carrying something like gratitude mixed with a new awareness. And if you hadn't helped him yesterday... Ethan held up his hands. Hey, your kindness was there before mine. Grace smiled a little. Maybe kindness circles back for all of us eventually. Her words lingered in the air, soft but powerful, a truth people often forget until life reminds them. If you were standing there in that moment, watching how one simple act changed everything, what would you have done? Be honest and drop your answer in the comments. And if you can't find the words, just tap like. Let it be your quiet reminder that compassion still matters in this world. Grace returned to her office, lighter than she'd walked in. But Ethan remained where he stood. Something tugged at him. A memory, a feeling he hadn't fully faced in years. He had been the one needing help once. A long time ago, when Ava was just a baby and her mother had walked out, leaving behind a crib and a silence too heavy for the house. Ethan had stood outside a supermarket, holding a crying newborn and a wallet with $8 inside. No one had looked at him. No one had stopped, except one woman. She'd seen him shaking, knees nearly buckling, and she placed 2 bags of groceries in his arms without asking a single question. No name, no lecture, just kindness. Ethan had never forgotten her face. And now, watching Grace, watching Mr. Rowan, watching life loop back in gentle, unexpected ways, something old inside him stirred. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? If yes, write yes, and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. But before Ethan could dwell on the memory, the elevator dinged again, and Mr. Rowan stepped out, came tapping softly, searching the lobby until his eyes found Ethan. "Can we talk?" the old man asked. Ethan nodded. "Of course." Mr. Rowan gestured toward a quiet seating area near the windows. "I owe you more than a thank you, son. And there's something you deserve to know." Ethan felt the world shift once more, slow, anticipatory, as he followed him. He didn't know it yet, but the next word spoken in that corner of the lobby would change far more than one day, one job, or one storm. They would change the course of his entire life. Ethan followed Mr. Rowan to the corner of the lobby where two leather chairs sat facing tall windows. Afternoon light spilled across the floor, warm and gentle, the kind of light that made ordinary moments feel strangely significant. Mr. Rowan lowered himself into one of the chairs, motioning for Ethan to sit across from him. "You look worried," the old man said quietly. "I'm not," Ethan replied, though his hands were clasped a little too tightly. "Just curious." Mr. Rowan smiled, lines deepening around his eyes. "You remind me of myself when I was your age, always bracing for something to go wrong." He rested both hands on the cane. "But sometimes, son, life tries to go right, and we don't recognize it." Ethan swallowed, unsure how to respond. "You helped me last night," Mr. Rowan continued, "but your kindness didn't begin there. Your life carries the weight of someone who's been selfless for a very long time." Ethan's breath hitched. "I just do what I have to. For my daughter." "Ava," Mr. Rowan murmured, surprising him. "You mentioned her in the car." Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, she's my whole world." The old man studied him with an expression Ethan couldn't quite decipher. Sorrow, admiration, something heavier beneath. "How old is she now?" 6. "And her mother?" Ethan looked down at his hands. "She left when Ava was still a baby." Mr. Rowan's eyes softened. "I'm sorry. That kind of abandonment, it cuts deeper than people admit." Ethan shrugged, a movement meant to seem casual, but carrying all the hidden ache he never shared with anyone. "We manage." Silence settled between them, not awkward, but intimate, like a calm before a truth long overdue. Finally, Mr. Rowan drew in a slow breath. "I need you to understand something, Ethan. Yesterday, you didn't just help an old man. You helped the owner of this building." Ethan blinked. "The owner?" Mr. Rowan nodded. "And of several others. I don't advertise it. I prefer to walk among people, without titles getting in the way." He leaned forward slightly, voice softer. "And because you helped me, I looked into you this morning." Ethan tensed. "Into me?" "Not in a harmful way," Mr. Rowan reassured. "In a curious way. I wanted to know what kind of man stops his car in that storm and risks soaking himself through for a stranger." Ethan exhaled slowly. His stomach tightened. He wasn't used to anyone examining his life. "What did you find?" he asked, barely above a whisper. Mr. Rowan smiled, not judgmental, but proud in a way Ethan didn't expect. "A single father who works 2 jobs. A man who never misses a parent-teacher meeting, even when he's exhausted. Someone who donates old toys to shelters instead of throwing them away. Someone who struggles, but never lets the world see him break." Ethan felt a sting in his eyes. He tried to blink away, hearing someone speak his quiet efforts aloud. Efforts no one ever noticed. Felt like someone seen the bruises beneath his ribs without him having to explain. "I'm just doing my best," Ethan murmured. "And that," Mr. Rowan said, "is why you deserve better than the hand life has dealt you." Ethan froze. Before he could ask what that meant, Mr. Rowan continued, "I want to offer you a different position. A full-time, stable one. Better pay, benefits, a schedule that lets you be home with your daughter at night." Ethan felt the world tilt again. A rush of disbelief, fear, hope, all tangled together. Why? Why would you do that?" Because kindness should never go unrewarded, Mr. Rowan said. And because I've been in your shoes before. A father trying to stand upright while the world pushes down. He paused. Someone helped me once. Now I help others when I can. Ethan stared at him. This stranger who somehow felt less like a coincidence and more like an answered prayer he never dared to speak aloud. Mr. Rowan reached into his coat pocket and placed a card on the table between them. Think about it. No pressure. But I believe you've carried the weight alone long enough. Ethan stared at the simple white card, his name handwritten beneath the offer. His throat tightened so hard he could barely breathe. Outside, the sky was clearing. The storm that had beaten the city only hours before now pulled back to reveal soft light, like the beginning of something new. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might be the spark someone needs tonight. Ethan leaned back in the chair, still staring at the card, still trying to process what had just happened. He thought of Ava, her drawings taped across the fridge, her tiny shoes by the door, the way she hugged him like she never wanted to let go. A better job, more time, more stability, safety. It felt unreal. Why me? Ethan whispered again, voice breaking in the quiet corner of the lobby. Mr. Rowan's reply was soft, almost fatherly. Because you were kind when no one was watching. And that's the truest measure of a man. Ethan opened his mouth to speak. But before he could, Grace hurried toward them with a look he'd never seen on her face before. Ethan, she said breathlessly, you need to come to security office. Something happened. His heart dropped. What is it? Grace swallowed hard. It's about your daughter. Ethan shot up from his chair, so quickly it scraped against the floor. His pulse thundered in his ears as he took a step toward Grace. What happened to Ava? Is she okay? Grace lifted both hands, trying to steady him. She's safe. Don't panic. But the school called. They've been trying to reach you. Something happened during recess. You need to call them back right now. His knees nearly buckled with relief and fear colliding at the same time. Safe but hurt? Scared? In trouble? A father's mind filled in the blanks faster than words could keep up. Where's my phone? He muttered, patting his pockets with shaky hands until he found it. The missed call stared back at him. 3 from the school, 1 from the nurse's office. His throat tightened. I'll give you privacy, Grace whispered, stepping back. But Mr. Rowan remained where he was seated, watching Ethan with the quiet steadiness of someone who understood the gravity of a father's fear. Ethan dialed with trembling fingers. The school nurse answered on the second ring. Mr. Carter? Yes, this is Ethan. What happened? Is Ava hurt? There was a small pause on the other end. Too long, too tense. She's okay, the nurse finally said, but she fell from the monkey bars. Hit her head. We kept her awake, and she's responding normally, but we need you to come pick her up. She's scared. Ethan squeezed his eyes shut, breath shuddering out of him. I'm coming. I'll leave right now. When he hung up, his hands were still trembling. The world around him felt muffled, distant. Go, Grace urged softly. Don't worry about anything here. Ethan nodded, already moving, but Mr. Rowan stood slowly, stopping him with a gentle touch on the arm. Do you need someone to drive you? The old man asked. You're shaking. Ethan shook his head. I can manage. But his voice quivered, a betrayal of fear clawing at his ribs. Mr. Rowan stepped closer, lowering his tone. Listen to me. I've been a father longer than I've been anything else. When your child is hurting, logic collapses. Let me take you. Let me help. Ethan hesitated. Not because he didn't trust a man, but because he spent so long surviving alone that letting someone help him felt foreign, almost wrong. Still, he nodded. Minutes later, they were in Mr. Rowan's car, the city rushing past in a blur of color and motion. Ethan stared at the road ahead, gripping the seatbelt so tightly his knuckles whitened. Ava is strong, Mr. Rowan said gently. Children are resilient in ways we forget. Ethan swallowed hard. She's all I have. If anything happened to her, she's going to be all right, the old man reassured. You're a good father. She knows she's loved. That makes a difference. Ethan's breath hitched. No one ever said that to him. Not family. Not friends. Not even Ava's mother before she walked out the door without a backward glance. The memory of that night flashed through him. The slam of the door, the silence afterward, the fear of raising a newborn alone. But Ava's tiny hand, curling around his finger for the first time, had kept him anchored. She always did. When they reached the school, Ethan was out of the car before the engine fully stopped. He rushed through the front doors and down the hall toward the nurse's office. His heart pounded with every step. Inside, a small figure sat on a cot, holding an ice pack to her forehead. Her legs swung nervously, her sneakers tapping the metal frame beneath her. Ava, Ethan breathed. Her head snapped up the moment she saw him. Her lip wobbled, and she burst into tears. "Daddy!" He scooped her into his arms, holding her as though the world might try to steal her away. Hey, I'm here. I'm right here." She buried her face in his shirt, sobbing softly. The nurse approached. "She's okay, Mr. Carter." The fall startled her more than anything. "But I recommend monitoring her for the next 24 hours. "Thank you," Ethan murmured, voice cracking as he stroked Ava's hair. "Thank you for taking care of her." As he held his daughter, feeling her tiny arms clutch around his neck, something inside him trembled. The fragile part of a parent that realizes how thin the line is between ordinary days and the moments that shatter them. If that moment hit you even a little, leave a red heart below. Sometimes one small symbol says what our hearts can't. Ethan carried Ava outside, her head resting on his shoulder. Mr. Rowan was waiting near the car, concern etched gently across his features. "How's our little warrior?" he asked with a warm smile. Ava peeked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "My head hurts." "Understandable," he said kindly, "but I've fallen more times than I can count. You bounce back quicker than you think." She managed a tiny smile. Ethan secured her in the back seat, then climbed into the passenger side. He glanced over at Mr. Rowan. "Thank you for coming with me. I didn't realize how much I needed help until—" "You don't have to explain," the old man interrupted softly. "Strong doesn't mean alone." The drive home was quiet, peaceful. Ava dozed lightly. Ethan watched the passing streets with a strange mixture of exhaustion and gratitude swirling in him. But just as they turned into Ethan's neighborhood, Mr. Rowan spoke again, his tone shifting into something deeper, heavier. "There's something else I need to tell you, Ethan. Something I didn't say earlier." Ethan looked at him, uneasy. "What is it?" Mr. Rowan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "It's about your daughter and her future." Ethan felt his chest tighten as the words settled in the quiet cabin of the car. Your daughter and her future. The air suddenly felt thinner, as if the world had narrowed to that single sentence. "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, his voice barely steady. Mr. Rowan exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the road ahead. "I wasn't sure whether to tell you today, but after what happened at the school, I don't want to wait." Ethan shifted in his seat, instinctively glancing back at Ava. She was half asleep, her small head leaning against a window, a faint bruise forming above her eyebrow. His heart clenched. "Please," Ethan whispered, "just say it." Mr. Rowan tightened his grip on the wheel. "I've watched this neighborhood for years. I've watched the families who live here, especially the single parents. And I've seen how easily children fall through cracks, not because their parents don't love them, but because life becomes too heavy for one set of hands." Ethan felt a quiet sting, not offense, but recognition. He'd lived that heaviness every day. "But you," Mr. Rowan continued, "you've held everything together with nothing but grit and love. That shouldn't go unrecognized." Ethan frowned slightly. "I don't understand." They pulled into his driveway. Mr. Rowan parked, but he didn't open his door. His gaze settled on Ethan with unusual intensity. "I want to sponsor your daughter's education," he said softly. "Private school, full scholarship, every supply, every opportunity, every door that should be open to a bright little girl like her." Ethan went still. The wind outside brushed leaves across the street, the faint clatter of them tapping the side of the car. But inside, everything froze. You want to sponsor her?" Ethan repeated, as if the words belonged to someone else's life, not his. Yes, Mr. Rowan said gently. I want her to have more than survival. I want her to have a path. Ethan stared at him, stunned. He felt the weight of exhaustion, fear, love, and hope collide inside his chest. The kind of collision that steals breath more than any storm ever could. Why? He whispered. Mr. Rowan's expression softened. Because I see myself in you. Because I see my wife and your daughter. The way she looked at the world with wonder even when life was hard. And because when I needed help, kindness found me. You gave me that same kindness last night, without expecting a thing in return. This is my way of continuing the circle. Ethan looked down, swallowed hard, then turned to check on Ava again. She was still asleep, a faint smile tugging at her lips as if to tell him she was safe. He blinked against the burn in his eyes. This is too much, Ethan murmured. I don't know if I can accept that. You don't have to decide tonight, Mr. Rowan said. But promise me you'll think about it. Not for you, for her. Ethan nodded slowly, struggling to steady his voice. I will. They stepped out of the car, and Ethan carefully lifted Ava from the back seat. She stirred faintly, curling into him, her warm breath brushing his collarbone. Inside the house, Ethan laid her on the couch and covered her with a blanket. When he turned back, he found Mr. Rowan standing quietly near the doorway, watching the small home with thoughtful eyes. The toys in a basket, the drawings on the fridge, the worn sofa, the life built from scraps of resilience. You've done beautifully with what you have, the old man whispered. Ethan swallowed, unsure how to respond. A moment passed, then another. Finally, Mr. Rowan placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. There's one more thing I haven't told you. Ethan stiffened. What else? Mr. Rowan hesitated. His face, usually so composed, shifted with a sadness Ethan didn't understand. Before my wife passed, the old man said quietly, I promised her I'd help a family in need every year in her honor. But this year, I couldn't find the right one. No one felt quite right. He paused, voice trembling for the first time. Until last night, Ethan's breath caught. You didn't choose us because you felt sorry? He asked. No, Mr. Rowan said firmly. I chose you because your strength reminded me of who I once was and who I still hope to be. Silence enveloped the room, warm and heavy with meaning. Be honest. Could you forgive after all the world has thrown at you? Could you still choose softness? Type forgive if you could, or never if the wounds will hold you back. Ethan sat down slowly, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything right now, the old man murmured. Just listen to the quiet. It tells us more than we think. Ethan lifted Ava's small hand, brushing his thumb across her knuckles. He realized then that for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. Still, a question tugged at him, rising from the depths of his uncertainty. Mr. Rowan, Ethan said softly, if you're offering all this, what do you want in return? The old man looked at him, with kindness, with grief, with something unspoken. I want you to hear the whole truth, he said, about why I really stopped walking in that storm last night. Ethan's heart stuttered. What truth? Mr. Rowan drew a trembling breath. I wasn't just caught in the rain, Ethan. I was running from a decision I didn't know how to live with. Ethan felt his pulse slow and thicken, as though every beat demanded silence to hear what would come next. Mr. Rowan lowered himself onto the armchair near the window, the fading afternoon light softening the deep lines on his face. What decision? Ethan asked quietly. The old man's eyes drifted toward the floor unfocused, as if he were staring into a memory he wished he could rewrite. Before the storm hit yesterday, I'd met with my board. They disagreed with the promises I'd made to continue my wife's charity programs. Said they weren't profitable. Said compassion wasn't sustainable. His jaw tightened. They wanted me to shut everything down. The scholarships, the food programs, the outreach centers. Ethan felt a sinking in his stomach. And you didn't want to? Mr. Rowan shook his head. My wife spent her last years fighting for those initiatives. They were the heart of who she was. Ending them felt like losing her all over again. He drew a shaky breath. The meeting turned ugly. Voices raised. People I trusted tried to push me out of the very company I built. That's why you were out in the storm? Ethan asked, realization dawning. Yes, the old man whispered. I walked for blocks without caring where I was going, without caring about the rain. I just needed to escape. His voice trembled. For the first time in my life, I felt truly alone. I wondered if maybe it was time to step back from everything. Ethan leaned forward. To step back? What do you mean? Mr. Rowan hesitated, then lifted his gaze with a vulnerability Ethan had never seen in a man his age. I mean that I wonder if the world still had room for the kind of kindness my wife believed in, if people still cared. His voice cracked. Yesterday, I stopped walking because I couldn't carry her dream anymore. My heart simply gave out on the sidewalk. Ethan's breath caught. You collapsed before I found you? I nearly did, Mr. Rowan admitted. I was dizzy, disoriented. I thought maybe no one would notice if I disappeared. His eyes softened, warm, grateful. But you notice, you stopped when the world didn't. And for the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't alone. Ethan swallowed hard. I didn't do anything special. You chose kindness, the old man interrupted gently. That's always special. A long silence settled. Not heavy, but meaningful, like fresh earth after storm. Ethan leaned back on the couch, letting the truth settle. Everything made sense now. The offer, the gratitude, the strange timing of their encounter. Two lives crossing at the exact moment. Both were carrying silent burdens too heavy to name. You came into that storm looking for a sign, Ethan murmured. And I found one, Mr. Rowan replied. Or maybe I found someone. Outside, the clouds finally parted. Sunlight broke through, casting a soft gold across the living room floor, a quiet reminder that even long storms must eventually yield. Ava stirred on the couch, blinking groggily. Daddy? Ethan rushed to her side. I'm here, baby. How's your head? She reached up to touch the bandage, frowning. Still hurts a little. Pain means healing is starting, Mr. Rowan said with a gentle smile. Ava's eyes drifted to him. Are you the nice grandpa from the car? The question hit Ethan unexpectedly, his heart tightening in a way he didn't see coming. Mr. Rowan let out a soft laugh, a fragile one, like he wasn't used to the title anymore. I suppose I could be, he said. Ava nodded sleepily, satisfied with the answer. She curled back under the blanket, her small body relaxing again. Ethan watched her, a warmth settling deep within him. Not relief, not gratitude alone, but hope. A hope so unfamiliar, he barely recognized it. If you believe hope still wins, even after storms, fear, and the hardest nights, comment and man. Let's fill this space with light. Someone scrolling right now might need to see it. Mr. Rowan rose slowly, walking toward the window. You know, when I looked at your daughter earlier, I saw something. What? Ethan asked. My wife always said children carry the purest reflections of the adults who love them. When I look at Ava, I see kindness, steadiness, courage. He turned back, his voice softening. Which means she sees in you every day. Ethan blinked rapidly, looking away. Compliments never landed easily. Not when life had carved him into someone who always felt he wasn't quite enough. She deserves everything I never had, he whispered. And she has something most children never do, Mr. Rowan answered. A father who would walk through storms for her. Ethan felt something crack open inside him, a tender fracture allowing light to seep in. The old man studied him for a moment longer before speaking again. There's more I'd like to do if you'll let me. Ethan looked up sharply. More? Mr. Rowan nodded, his eyes shimmering faintly. Yes. Before you decide about the scholarship, there's something you must know. Something about your daughter's future and about mine. Ethan's breath halted. What is it? Mr. Rowan stepped closer, his voice dropping to a fragile whisper. When I look at Ava, I see the child I lost. The room fell silent, utterly, painfully still. Ethan felt the words echo through him, hollowing out the space between his heartbeat and the silence of the room. When I look at Ava, I see the child I lost. For a moment, neither man moved. Even the light through the window seemed to pause, settling in stillness around them. Ethan's voice emerged as a whisper. "You lost a child?" Mr. Rowan nodded. The movement slow, waited. He lowered himself back into the chair, as if the memory pressed down on his shoulders. Her name was Emily. She'd be around Ava's age now. He exhaled shakily. She died when she was 3. A heart defect no one caught in time. A quiet ache filled the space. Ethan felt it settle beneath his ribs, soft but sharp. "I'm so sorry," he said, because nothing else felt big enough to offer. Mr. Rowan gave a small, pained smile. People say those words often. They mean well. But grief is a country you learn to live in, not a wound that closes. Ethan listened, every nerve still. "My wife never recovered from losing Emily," the old man continued. "She hid it well. She laughed. She volunteered. She loved deeply. But inside, a part of her stayed frozen in that hospital room." His hands trembled slightly where they rested on his cane. "When she died last year, I lost both of them all over again." Ethan swallowed hard. The fragility in Mr. Rowan's voice felt like something sacred. A confession a man carried alone for too many years. "You don't have to tell me this," Ethan murmured. "I do," the old man replied gently. "Because you need to understand why meeting Ava, felt like a door opening in a room I thought was sealed forever." Ethan glanced at his daughter sleeping softly on the couch, her small hand curled into the blanket. He felt something inside him twist. The fear of losing her, the tenderness of loving her, the impossible weight of raising a child alone. "She reminds you of Emily?" Ethan asked quietly. "Not in her looks," Mr. Rowan said. "In her light, the way she smiled at me in the car, the fear in her eyes when she was hurt, and how she trusted you to make it disappear. Emily was like that, brave, bright, and fully believing her father could fix the world." His voice cracked at the last word. Ethan looked away, blinking hard. "No wonder you want to help her," he whispered. Mr. Rowan nodded. "But it's not just that. It's you, too." Ethan frowned softly. "Me?" "Yes," the old man said. "I watched you today. How you ran to her, how you held her, how your first instinct was gentleness. Good fathers are not common, Ethan. Many men love their children. Few carry the weight the way you do." Ethan didn't know what to say. Praise always felt like a language he wasn't fluent in. "I didn't get to be the father I wanted to be," Mr. Rowan continued. "Illness took that from me. But when I saw you, soaked in rain, helping a stranger, I saw the kind of man Emily would have wanted in her life." Ethan's throat tightened helplessly. Sorrow and gratitude tangled inside him, a thread he couldn't tease apart. The old man leaned back, taking a slow breath. "I'm not trying to replace her, or insert myself where I don't belong. I want to support something good in this world. Something that feels like the kindness my wife believed in." Ethan nodded slowly. "I understand." But he didn't. Not fully. How could he understand the depth of a grief that stretched across decades? How could he understand the way his simple act of kindness had collided with a stranger's buried heartbreak? Still, he felt it. He felt the sincerity, the ache, the hope. Ava stirred again, blinking awake. Ethan knelt beside her. "Hey, my brave girl, you hungry?" She nodded sleepily. "I can make something quick," Ethan said, but Mr. Rowan stood. "Let me help." Ethan hesitated. "You're our guest." "Then let me be the kind that helps with dinner," the old man said with a soft smile. He moved into the small kitchen, like someone stepping into a life he once lived. Ethan followed, watching as the old man opened cabinets with an ease that felt oddly familiar, as though grief had taught him the shape of homes like this one. They made simple food: soup, toast, fruit slices. Ava sat at the table with her ice pack, giggling softly when Mr. Rowan pretended to inspect her bruise like a doctor. Ethan watched them, something warm and aching blooming in his chest. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel too quiet, too heavy, too lonely. It felt like family. Mr. Rowan washed his hands at the sink, then turned back to Ethan. "I want to tell you what I'm really offering," he said softly. "Not just a scholarship, not just a job." Ethan's pulse thudded. What else? The old man's eyes glistened. A future for all three of us. Ethan stared at him, breath caught in his lungs. I don't understand. Mr. Rowan stepped closer, voice trembling. I don't want to just sponsor her education, Ethan. I want to create something lasting. A trust, a protection, a foundation in her name, one that grows as she grows. His voice cracked. And I want you to help me lead it. Ethan's knees weakened. This wasn't charity. This wasn't favor. This was legacy. Before Ethan could respond, Mr. Rowan added softly, I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I can help save someone else's. The room blurred. Ava looked up, confused by the sudden quiet. Daddy? Are you okay? Ethan knelt beside her, brushing a curl from her forehead. Yeah, he whispered. I think everything might be okay. Mr. Rowan smiled gently, and for the first time, it reached the deepest part of his eyes. But just as that hope settled, Ethan's phone buzzed violently on the counter. He glanced at the screen, and the color drained from his face. It was a message that would turn the night upside down, and it came from Ava's mother. Her mother, Mr. Rowan murmured. Ethan swallowed hard. He hadn't said it aloud, but it was true. She's been asking more questions lately, Ethan confessed. Why she only has one parent? Why her mother left? I don't know how to answer those questions without breaking her heart. Mr. Rowan placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Then maybe the question isn't about her mother at all. Maybe it's about what future hurts less. Ethan leaned against the wall, shoulders trembling. I don't know if I can forgive her. You don't have to, the old man said softly. Forgiveness is not a requirement for doing what's right. It's just one path, not the only one. A quiet fell between them, heavy, honest, necessary. Ethan looked toward the living room where Ava sat drawing with crayons, unaware of the fracture in her world. He couldn't imagine letting anyone come in and disrupt the fragile peace they had built. And yet, I shouldn't make this decision alone, Ethan murmured. It's about Ava, not me. It's about both of you, Mr. Rowan corrected gently. But listen to your heart, not your fear. Ethan closed his eyes, breathing slowly. If this story moved you, don't scroll away without feeling this moment. Tap like, not for me, but for the father standing in a hallway trying to protect his child's heart. One click is a quiet way of saying, I feel this with you. Ethan straightened, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. I need to answer her, he whispered. Mr. Rowan nodded. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Ethan stared at the message one last time, every memory of abandonment pressing against him. And yet, so did every memory of Ava asking where her mother was. Finally, he typed, we can meet, but on my terms, and only if Ava feels safe. He hit send before he could overthink it. When he returned to the living room, Ava looked up from her drawing. Daddy, look, I made a picture of us and Grandpa Rowan. Mr. Rowan froze, not with pain, but with a tenderness so strong it softened every line on his face. You call me Grandpa? He whispered. Ava nodded shyly. You helped me today. Daddy says people who help us are family. The old man's eyes glistened. Ethan felt his chest ache in the sweetest way. Family. A word rewritten right there in crayon. Mr. Rowan knelt beside her. May I keep this drawing? It's the most precious gift I've been given in a very long time. Ava giggled. Of course. Ethan watched them. An old man with a broken past, a little girl with a healing future, and a father somewhere in between, trying to stitch all their pieces together. Ethan, Mr. Rowan said after placing the drawing carefully in his coat pocket, no matter what happens with her mother, you have built a home filled with love. That is something no one can take from you. Ethan nodded, emotion thick in his throat. And remember, the old man continued, storms don't erase what they touch. They reveal what's strong enough to remain. Their eyes met. Two men bound not by blood, but by the fragile, powerful thread of shared heartbreak and chosen kindness. Ethan exhaled, a release he didn't know he'd been holding. What now? Mr. Rowan smiled gently. Now, we take it one day at a time, and we build the future Ava deserves. The living room glowed with evening light, warm and forgiving. Outside, the storm had passed hours ago, but inside, something new had begun. A bridge, a family, a promise. And as the night folded around them, Ethan finally understood the truth he had been chasing for years. He was never meant to carry everything alone. And kindness, the kind given freely without witness, had come back home to him. In a world full of storms, one small act of compassion can open a door to healing you never expected. Kindness circles back, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but always exactly when your heart needs it most.